Peace, family. Peace, peace, peace to all. Happy that you're here today with us. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with us.
And we are forever grateful.
So, hopefully you checked out last week's episode, right? Where we, dropped a lot of information, making people think, making ourselves think, having a good conversation. Of course, this is my wife, but it's also my friend, my business partner. So, we talk, we converse. All the topics that we talk about here to the public, we talk about it internally, in our household, because we both developing, always developing, and you've taught me a lot, right? And I'm sure you would say likewise.
I just you have definitely been one of my greatest teachers.
Yeah. So and I think that's what relationships are about. Like, you got to be able to offer something for each other, or as it should be reciprocal. It should be reciprocity in the relationship. So, one thing that I wanted to talk about is, power itself as it relates to us as a people, us as individuals, our power. A lot of times when you're talking or on your Facebook posts, you always say, call your power back, things like that. And me being, the individual that I am, sometimes going through challenges, right? Challenges when you're building organizations, when you're a leader, such as myself, when you're leading people, we get weak, right? And you always tell me, call my power back, right? And so I like to wear this symbol because when I look at the symbol, it makes me say, look to my roots, and my roots is power or divinity. So, kind of what, in your words, say or explain, what do you mean when you say calling the power back?
So what I mean when I say call your power back to yourself, it's about calling your energy back to yourself. And so when I am saying, Queens, call your power back to yourself, it's just like remembering who you are, calling all of that energy back to yourself. Because a lot of the times in life, we are always giving our energy, we're depleting our energy, we're serving, and so we're giving so much of ourselves that a lot of us don't take that time to pour back into ourselves. And so with us not pouring back into ourselves, it's pieces of us, fragments of us, all out into the universe in different forms, because we gave a little power here and a little power here and a little energy here and a little energy there, but we haven't been giving any energy back to ourselves, and so we're depleted. And so I would love to tell the queens to call their energy and their power back to themselves. So it's like it's something as simple as saying, I command or I allow, whichever word feel better for you, I allow or I command my power to come back to me from every place, every source, every dimension, every person, everything. And I also say, when you call that power back, to cleanse that power, to tell that power, okay, now that you're coming back to me, I allow you to raise the frequency of this energy, because once that energy is out, more energy is being added on to that energy. And so it's about calling all of your energy and all of your power back to yourself. And once you call your energy and your power back to yourself, you always remember who you are, because you are the power. And so once you have that knowingness of that you are worthy, that you are enough, that you are powerful, that you are with God, that's empowering, and it puts you back into your divinity state. And so then you have the strength to go tackle the world.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, I think when you or I, when we talk to someone, and it's like, think about what you're saying. You're saying, well, call your power back, right? A lot of us, we know, have been programmed to think that the power is outside of us, right? So, I always like to try to break that down to people, for them to get it in what I consider a minute state. Because think about when we was taught, all of us went through some form of education, some form of indoctrination, right? And so we were taught that God or this force that we call God, or the source that we call God. Many of us were taught that it is outside of us, right? So we're taught that, well, there's a God, and we say, well, it's in heaven. And you say, well, we're taught, well, heaven is not here. So we were taught about heaven as if it's a physical place. And so think about that. If it's a physical place, and then this God is in heaven, well, he's not in us. So, a lot of people are under that perception, thinking that the source or the essence is outside of them. So, when we talk, we use universal terms, because in universal in the aspect of inclusive of all. So regardless, whatever somebody's religion, whatever you know or don't know, right, it's to say that God is, right? God, the reality in an absolute sense, God could not be confounded to something and still be God, right? So in other words, God could not be in heaven, right? Because that would mean heaven is bigger than God, right? That would mean something created, like to say that God is a man and he sits on the seat, right? Is to say that he has the needs of a man, because I'm a man and I need to sit down, right? So our concept of God is all. What does that really mean? That means there's no place God isn't, because nothing could exist without God, right? So when we study the ancients, our ancient ancestors, you'll see, if you go to ancient Egypt, as they call it today, right? You'll see God, there's a symbol of God as water, symbol of God as air, symbol of God as earth, as fire, as elements, right? Everything is composed of God. So there's no place God isn't. And scientifically, if you say energy is not created, nor is it destroyed, it just takes on a different form. So we look at God in the universal aspect. So therefore, if God is, God cannot come or go. God is 100% equally present in all places, in all things, at all times, omnipresent. So God is in us, right? And so I think the problem with these systems, these education systems, or whether it's the school system, whether it's the indoctrination system or church system, these systems was created to confound our minds and to stop us from thinking. Because if you can stop a person from thinking, then you really control them, right? If I can control the way a man thinks, I can control his actions. Carter G. Woodson, right? The miseducation of the Negro, right? So when you think about our concept of God, if I can make a man think God is outside of him, then what am I making him believe? He is not God, and he does not have the power of God. But if you read, actually in these holy books, the scriptures, all of them say God is in us, right? But sometimes when I'm talking, people say, well, you believe differently. And I say, well, what do you believe? And most people don't really know what they believe. They just believe in a concept somebody gave them. Because the Bible itself says we're made in the image and likeness of God. I have a son. I have a daughter, right? I created them, gave birth to them. They're in my image and my likeness. My DNA is in them, right? Part of my mannerisms are in them. Part of the characteristics I have are in them. They're in my image and likeness. If man is made in the image and likeness of God, then man is a God, right? This is what the Jesus in the Bible stated, right? Is it not written in your law, ye are gods, right? So I like to make emphasis on that. So when you're saying call your power back, your power is your God power, right? Or it's not really your God power, it's God power. Right. And so it's a universal power.
Because all have access to this power.
Everyone has access to the power, right? But what we do with it
is up to us.
Is based on us.
That's the free will.
So that would be what free will is, right? You having the ability to transform whatever circumstance, right? So that power, that internal power that we have, some people, because of religion, they say God power. If I'm just a scientist, from a scientific perspective, I'm just gonna say it's spiritual power, right? Because spirituality is unseen science. Science is seen spirituality, meaning the fact that you see me, they say physical, and they say, well, that's science because it's factual, right? But the spiritual part is not seen, but we know it's there, right? So the internal power is the hidden power. That's the power that people have, and sometimes they tap into it and don't even know they tapped into it, right? Like you can do, there's studies. There's a case like where a woman, she got in a car accident, had a little child in the car, and the baby was trapped, right? The car was flipped over. The only way she was gonna get the baby out of the car is she had to flip the car over, and the woman literally picked up the car, right? Now people say, that wasn't nothing but God, right? Which is true, but she tapped into God. She tapped into the power that's in us all, right? And so the master that people call Jesus when you're reading in the biblical aspect, right? Taught people how to tap into that power, right? And they taught people how to do miraculous things, or people say miracles, right? And even he said, right, greater works than I will ye do. You see? If you believe, right? If you have faith, right?
Even though it's prophesizing that ye will do greater works than he, but if you say I'm greater than Jesus, it's blasphemy.
Right, yeah. That's what people were going to look at you. You know, they'll be like, wow.
But it's in the words. Just like how you were just even pointing out that when they was coming to kill him, he said, for which of my good works are you here to kill me for, stone me for? And you made yourself a God. He's like, well, it's in your words. Like, you created this. And so the journey with Jesus is the Christ consciousness of always guiding you back to yourself, because once you go back into yourself, because it's not until you call the power back that you can access the full power of God.
Right.
And so they plan with us by thinking we're looking outside of us, especially all the way in the sky, for the source that's already within us.
That's within us. And then, you know, since we're on the biblical aspect, in the book of Luke, you know, Jesus says, the kingdom of heaven is within, right? It's within, right? And so we know heaven is not a place that you have to die to go to. It's a state of consciousness, right? It's a mental state of consciousness. Hell is a mental state of consciousness, right? So when the slave master in slavery he mentally enslaved us and gave us this heaven that you could only experience this happiness and wealth and milk and honey and gold when you physically died, right? What did he do? Why would he do that? Because he created a hell state for you as a slave living in hell, right? Because to not be able to clothe yourself, feed yourself, a man can't protect his woman, right? Not be able to read, not be able to educate yourself, to have no control, right, of where you lay your head, to be a possession of somebody, to be beaten, to be raped, and it be legal. I can't call that nothing but hell. Period. That's hell.
Like Reverend Ike said, he's like, every other race have they have their cake now, they have their heaven now, but we gotta die to go get our pie in the sky. It's like,
Right.
I don't want to die to get
Right.
my pie. I want my pie now.
Right, exactly. So, living in a physical hell, but then believing in a mythological fairy tale heaven, right? While other people were living in a heaven state, right? So therefore, this heaven state is an internal feeling, right? Everything is inside of us, right? And so at Masternomics, we teach entrepreneurship, right? But I always tell people we don't teach entrepreneurship like everybody else, right? Because we teach it from the internal aspects, okay? So our thing is to create the mind of a business owner, right? Because entrepreneurship should free you, okay? So free your mind and the rest will follow. So we focus so much on mindset shifting. To shift your physical circumstances, you got to go to the spiritual aspect. You got to go inside. So you got to tap into that divine power, whether you call it God or you call it spirit or whatever you call it, it's that internal power. Because we use words that make us feel good or that we relate to. That's just the reality, right? Most of us raised in this Western hemisphere, right? And we were raised under what people call Christianity. So we use the terms God, devil, all those have a religious connotation, right? So when we're talking about this God power that we got to realize that we have a real power inside of us. Like, we can't in this day and time be living our lives like our people lived 400 years ago, right? When we was in a bondage, like we have to free our minds. And the way we free our minds is to first acknowledge that we have power. See, you can't tap into the power if you don't acknowledge that you have the power, right? So what would you say is a way someone can tap into their internal power, right?
Well, I would say the same message that every, spiritual leader tell you is you have to go within. You got to meditate. You got to get still. And so that's the number one, to me, solution is to be able to meditate and still your mind. But the difference is there's so many different forms of meditation. And so if you can't just sit there and complete quiet, and there's other ways to meditate to be able to still your mind. So I would say that in order to be able to tap into that power, first you need to be able to still your energy, and not only still your energy, but also do things to fill that energy back up. We're calling that energy back, because the more you call that energy back, the more you're loving on yourself, the more you're remembering who you are, the more you're remembering that you are worthy, the more you are remembering that you are enough. And then the more that energy grows, the more it empowers you, the more that, it's like you're filling yourself up, and then it just exudes through your energy field.
Okay. Tapping into that power, right?
You can do breath work, you can do journaling, anything where you're just calming your nervous system down, and you're not overthinking the future, you're not overthinking the past. It's just you're just being in the moment and just allowing yourself to just be. Because when you just allowing yourself to be, it's like you're able to receive clarity on things. Once you calm your mind, once you calm your nervous system, it's like you start to be able to see things from a different perspective. You start to be able to see things from a higher perspective if you allow yourself to tap into those higher vibrations, of course. But you're able to see it bigger than just yourself. But it's hard to see things bigger than yourself when you're only focused on the physical world, because in the physical world you're trying to survive for yourself, kind of like the class we just did, the previous one. That's the difference between survival mode and creative mode. In creative mode is because the more creative you be, the more in flow you be, the more you relax, the more you just love life, the more you're in your God power, the more you're accessing that power, the more you're tapped into that power. But the more that you're, I gotta go get this money, I gotta go make this work, I gotta go make this move, I gotta go, do this, I gotta go do that, I gotta go cook, I gotta take care of the kids, I gotta force myself to do that. that's the survival mode. You can't, you're not relaxing, so therefore you can't receive that energy in that mode.
So, screwed up something too. Like when you're talking, you keep laying back a lot. Yeah. So we'll edit. Start back. So, you know, you was like, you know, people can't see, right? So obviously, when you say people, you can't see the situation you're in. We use that word "see." Obviously, when people say you can't see what I'm saying, we're not really talking about seeing with these two eyes. We're talking about another form of sight, right? When you're arguing with someone, it could be your wife, could be whoever, and you say, you ain't hearing what I'm saying, right? Obviously, we're talking about a different form of hearing, because if you're shouting in my face and you say you can't hear, right? And then if I say you ain't feeling what I'm saying, you don't feel me, I'm getting closer to something because I'm talking about a feeling, right? So when we're talking about internal power, now we're getting to the feeling, right? So how do we tap into it? It's about the feeling. It's about a vibration, because we was taught that we got 5 senses, right? See, hear, touch, taste, smell. We're taught that, you know, that's what we're taught in school. Now, and they say it's a fact, right? Now, we really know different. We really know, well, those who know that see, hear, touch, taste, smell is all one sense. What's that? It's all the sense of touch, right? Or feel, right? Because if you see, what we call sight deals with light hitting the retina.
So it's touching.
And then it has to touch. You close your eyes, but when you open, light touches it. You see, right? Smell, particles touch your nose fibers, right? Touches touch, right? Taste, touches our taste buds, right? So all of these senses, right, all deal with touch. Really one sense. But the main thing is they're really all tied to the physical part of us. They're all tied to the physical part, right? But in accessing that internal power, it's spiritual. It deals with feeling not just like this, but sensing feeling, a higher sense, the other higher senses, right? And that deals with vibration, right? So, you know, you can go into a certain club, and everybody done been to a club or a party or something, and you like, man, it's a bad vibe there. What are we talking about? It's a feeling. So that's the spiritual part of you that feels the vibration, because everything vibrates. Everything is in movement. Everybody has an energy, because we are energy, and everybody vibrates at a certain level. Some people is vibrating so low that we call that energy bad, and we like, yo, I don't feel that. I don't feel it. I was cool with you, but when she walked in the door, she threw my vibe off, right? We're talking about vibrations. So the thing is, people got to learn how to control our vibration and how to vibrate higher and tap into that internal power, right? That comes through what you were just talking about, part of meditation, but it also comes with better eating habits, disciplining ourselves, right? People would say depriving yourself of certain things like that, but it's really not depriving yourself, right? It's disciplining yourself, right? It's saying, I don't have to overindulge on food or something, right? Or I don't have to overindulge on foolishness, and that could be on Facebook, just looking at junk or whatever social media, and we just gluttonously listening to garbage, stuff that's not bettering us. You see what I'm saying? So then that increases our vibe on a higher level, and we start tapping into the real internal power because we blocking out the garbage. So then when you put that with the meditation, right, you start to receive messages. Because, you know, we're always taught when we're going through something, we're programmed, right? We're taught something get bad, what do we say? I'm gonna pray. And most people prayers is this. Oh, I just well, help me pay my bills. I wish I had this. I won't do it no more. I don't want to go to jail. We call that prayer, but that's really, you bargaining with God, right? I ain't gonna mess up no more if you get me out of this trouble, right? Let's make a deal.
Sacrifice this so I can get this.
Yeah, or you're begging. You see what I'm saying? Right. Right. But if you find out that most people never do this, right? They read these books, these religious books or whatever, and the reality is they were written by men. But you'll find when the men, whether it was Moses or whoever, or if they got it from ancient Egypt, the real authors of these books, right? They were still humans. They received these books. Well, nowadays we call them receiving downloads. So these things were downloaded into their consciousness. They weren't groveling and praying and just begging for something. They were in a meditative state and they became receptive, right? So praying is the art of talking and not listening. Meditation is the art of receiving, listening and receiving, right? So when you see certain masters, when they would go into salat or what people call prayer or tafu, they have their hands like this in a receptive state to receive, right? And so once you start to block out the garbage in your life, you start getting rid of these worthless beings, worthless people. You get focused, whether it's on your business, externally outside your household or the business of your household, right? What happens? You become more still, right? Your energy becomes more concentrated because it's focused. And then meditation will start opening up to you. Because if you do it over a period of time, you become better at meditation. But what happens? You start to receive messages or downloads, right? And you'll find that all these people that say they receive the scripture, this is how they receive the scripture. You see what I'm saying? And so that's how we have to look at our lives. We could tap into that power once we give them the garbage back. Because the garbage don't work for us. Giving your power outside of you, it doesn't work for you, right? And even the way we teach entrepreneurship, it's empowering because it's saying you can control your destiny, right? And therefore, you're faithful to your word only when you do the work. So I always tell people, you got to build a business, you're going to have faith. Right? And what's that mean? That means work. Because even the Bible says what faith without works is it's dead. So that's not faith. If you're not putting in no work, you're not faithful.
Yes, so that's what I liked about the movie The Secret is
the movie or the book?
It was inside of the movie.
Okay.
The example that I'm talking about, he said that in order to gain satisfaction, you have to put in action because you cannot receive satisfaction without action, because right in the middle of the word satisfaction is the action. And so that reminded me of what you're saying, was like faith without works is dead, because it's just like we've met people that felt as if only thing they had to do was just meditate all day or just sit and read all day. Right. But if you never got up and acted on the impulses from the meditations or whatever,
you don't even believe what you're reading.
Yes, because it's like we're expecting this hocus pocus of falling out of the sky.
Right.
But that hinder us. It puts so much fear behind us, and it's because that we're not really trusting the process. And so it's like we want a savior to come in and do the work for us versus us doing our parts to save ourselves.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, because this it's crazy because the era of time that we live in, this is an information age, right? And we're bombarded with information. So what you'll find is that all information is not good information, right?
Accurate,
or accurate or whatever, right? But we're just bombarded with things, right? And I don't care if you read 1,000 books. and it's some potent, great information. If you ain't doing nothing with it, what good is it for? Right? Like, if you're gonna just read,
but you don't know how to apply it.
Right, and you don't apply anything, what good is it? It's not power until you apply it. Right? And it's not that you got to go out and take the knowledge and even heal the world. You can't heal yourself or better your circumstances if you don't apply what you've learned. Right? And so what we see, the world is in the condition it is in today because, for one, most people don't read. Black or white. They don't read. And then the ones that do read, most of them do not apply what they're reading. Okay?
Or they're reading garbage.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I was giving them the benefit of the doubt, saying, look, you read something that's worth something. But even those people that are reading information that was designed to uplift humanity.
Most of them do not.
Right. Most of them don't apply what they're reading. You see what I'm saying? It's like most people say they believe, but they don't do no work. So you ain't really know, you're not even a believer in what you're professing to believe in. Right?
Well, you meet people and it's like they have very low vibrations and they take everything personal and they always feel like people attacking them. They're the biggest victims, but then you'll tell them like about the book, The Four Agreements. Oh, I read that book. Go read it again.
Yeah.
It's not a one-time read.
Right.
You know? It takes time to be able to adopt those skills. It takes time to be able to check and correct yourself. You know, like even shadow work. Shadow work is not a one-time thing. It's not a one-time fix. It's something that takes time. You know, and so yeah, we just gotta. We became like what they call a microwave society. We want everything quick, fast, and in a hurry. And that's why we love the idea of a savior. Like I remember you said, the people that want a savior is the people that do not want to be responsible.
That's right.
The people that's waiting for somebody to come down and save them is the people that do not want to be responsible for their own actions. They don't want to do the work. They want to be able to blame somebody else. It's easier to blame God or it's easier to blame the devil. But one thing they're never blaming is themselves.
And they're the ones that have the power. Right? The God and the devil is inside of them. You know, and that's the ultimate reality, right? That's the difference in what we teach. That's why we have Phoenix Land Development, right? And in Phoenix Land Development, what are we doing? We're building community. What's in a community? People that have come together for common unity. What's there? There's got to be an economic structure, right? So that's why we have the Masternomics business aspect, where we teach business development, structuring your business, building your business, right? Then you got to have a place to lay your head, right? So we're not talking about a neighborhood, we're talking about a community, right? Because you can be surrounded by like-minded people that love self and kind. You love yourself, right? Yeah. You love your culture, your people. You realize that family is the blueprint to civilization. So that's the communal aspect. Well, then you also have to have an education aspect, right? Education, not indoctrination, right? Education in the term of drawing something out, the original meaning of the word, right? Educated to draw something out. Because when we're talking about the school that we're building, right, we're talking about educating the children. What is that? That's not just teaching them see, hear, touch, taste, and smell 5 senses. We're talking about developing their willpower, making them be intuitive, right? Critical thinking. You see, if we would put that in the children early, then we create mental giants. We create the geniuses of society, right? So that's what we're talking about with Phoenix land development and building the Phoenix community. That's the culture, right? And then you have to have the spirituality, right? Spirituality is the essence of everything, right? Because one day we will go back to spirit, right? We don't die. We go back to spirit. We go back from whence we came. Because nothing really dies, right?
Energy can't die.
Right. Yeah, you take it on a different form, right? And if you go to a different form, it's still here.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we have to have some form of teaching that, right? Religion gave a poor job of it, right? Because it was
it don't teach you that you always have been and that you always will be. You know, it pretty much just teach you that you just came out of nowhere from the grace of Sky Daddy, and you're just gonna die, and then Sky Daddy get to choose if you've been good enough and pleasing enough, then you get to come and party with Sky Daddy, and if not, you gotta go. You gotta go to the big bad Lucifer and burn in hell for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah. So it you know, the thing is, religion is stories, right? And you know, the stories can inspire people. I mean, some of the greatest people that we of the world in history, right, was in some form of a religious belief system. But they're great because they transcended the religion, right? They did something that was spiritual and changed and affected people no matter what your religious belief was. Right. They applied spirituality, because religion is following someone else's and believing in somebody else's story. Spirituality is you having your own experience, right? And so when I say we, black people, melanated people, when we structured civilization, right, we based it off of the cosmos, right, which deals with the universal aspect of things, right? And we taught that we are one with the universe, right? So it was all spiritual, right? So we set up schools in Egypt. You know, some people, they use the term, they call them mystery schools, right? But they were actual schools, right? And so in this community that we're developing, there has to be spiritual schools, right? Because I mean, a child has to develop himself and his understanding of the spiritual world, right? So all of these things are necessary when you're talking about building and developing, right? All these things are necessary because we have to apply what we know, right? If you're going to change a people or help develop them, right, then you have to apply what you know, right? And they will see that. So that's why we have these movements.
Be the walking examples of embodying it.
Yeah, embodying it, right? And it's to be the solution. So everyone has the power to be the solution to your problems, because your problems, you created your problems, right? And I always say, if you messed it up, you can fix it, right? So, you know, that's what we teach, right? And that's what we teach in an entrepreneurial aspect, right? And that's what we teach in a self-mastery aspect and a personal development aspect.
But it is so crazy that you say that, because so many people do not realize that just because they have done something wrong or something bad, that doesn't make them a bad person. That just because they have they don't have certain things that they see people on social media or the TV and things with, they feel unworthy. Like they feel like just because that they have messed up in life, that they are just a messed up or they just a failure. And I just feel like that's one of the biggest messages that we at Masternomics, that we teach and we emphasize, that doesn't have to define you. Right. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your financial background is. It doesn't matter your race, your size, your body shape, size. Like none of that matter. None of the physical things truly matters. What matters is what's going on within you. And so you always have the power to transform your life. You can always recreate your life. As long as you have breath in your body, as long as you have that sacred breath, you always have the power to recreate it. And so people get offended when you tell them, your life is jacked up because you jacked up. Your life is messed up because you was messed up. Your life is this way because of you. You did this. You created this. And they get so offended and they get mad. But that's the most beautiful part, because it had the power to mess it up. Now that means that the power's in you. And so now only thing you have to do is say, well, how do I shift this so I can recreate this the way that I want it to be? Because it's still the same power.
Right.
It's up to you how you utilize it.
Exactly.
There is no bad energy.
Right.
Energy is energy, but it's up to you how you utilize that
Exactly.
energy. You know, like what you said, science will call it energy. The spiritual people, you know, they'll call it the universe. Religious people call it God, but it's all the same thing. Regardless of what terminology you want to use, it is what it is. But people get so offended about the language that you use in order to describe this same energy. But no matter who you are, I don't care how messed up you are, you still have the power to tap into that energy.
Right.
You still have the power to change it all, because that energy is never away from you. You can be in prison and tap into that energy.
Right. That's right.
You can have cancer and tap into that energy. You can have 25 kids and nowhere to live and tap into that energy.
Right.
The energy is not just for some people. It's not for pretty people. It's not for tall people. It's not for successful people. It just is.
Right.
It's up to you if you're going to channel in that energy. Because if you're not channeling in that energy, then you're channeling in lower vibrational energy. And so either way it goes, some energy is controlling you.
That's right.
And so, that's just the crazy part. Is like, I be wanting people to realize that don't just look at us and say, oh, that it's easy for y'all to say that because, you know, like y'all have money or y'all got these businesses or y'all got the land, y'all got this. We're human too. Like, we haven't always been here. We haven't always started here, but we had to tap into new energies. When we met each other, we was really coming out of low points in our life, just to be honest. You like, we being transparent here. We both was coming out of low points, and we were saying enough is enough. And so I got to the space that enough is enough within me, and you had got to a space that enough was enough with you, and then we ended up meeting within months of us getting into that space of enough is enough, you know. And we recreated our whole entire lives. Not that we became something that we're not that we just put on some fakeness and pretend we're doing this and this that wasn't never the case. What it is parts of us died so we can rebirth into who we truly are. Because within it, once we met and we got to that space, it really was like when the God power truly came out of us, because that's when we tapped into that energy. But the energy have always been there. You could have been tapped into it. I could have been tapped into it. But it wasn't until divine order of us coming together that we tapped into it.
Till we made a decision to positively change our lives. And so that ties into what you were saying, whereas some people, when you tell them, well, yeah, your life messed up, but you picked that dude or you picked that woman.
As if I hadn't been there.
Or right. You know, but people, they take it personal. They feel like you're attacking them when you point out the reality that they made a mistake, right? You don't become powerful, or you don't empower yourself until you accept that what happens to you is your fault. When you take ownership of the mistakes in your life, you become powerful at that point.
It's so empowering.
You know, everything shifts. If you stay a victim, you will always be powerless, because you are stating, I am a victim. Victims, I gotta say this, victims get victimized. Victims become victims over and over again because they say, I am a victim. Right? Whatever you put after I am, you become. So if you say, I am a battered woman, right? Then you will stay that way, right? If you say, I'm a victim, he did this to me, she did that to me. If you're always pointing the finger and being a victim, victims are victimized by people that have more power than them, right? Why would they have more power? Because the victim gave them the power. You see what I'm saying? So it's a consciousness state. The lowest form of consciousness is the victim mode, right? It's to be the victim. Stuff always happens to the victim. You ever ran into somebody and there's just always something happened to them, but it's never their fault. Like, I mean, I've talked to people and they say, yeah, you know, I heard what you're saying. I could do that. I could start a victim, but you know, my wife, she ain't gonna support. My husband, he don't do this. Well, when my baby daddy left me, he left me messed up. When and you're like, you're listening, and you're like, okay, join the party. Like, I mean, I can tell you a bunch of stuff that people did to me, but I ain't dwelling there. I'm not giving them that much power. You think I'm gonna let some girl who broke my heart 20 years ago still see me and like, oh, he's still a bum crying. Yeah, I left him. Look at him. He's still a bum. That's why I left him. Right? Nah, I'm breaking their hearts. They like, dang, look what he turned out to be. Girl, you know, I used to date him. Ignore their friend like, yeah, right. What would he want with you? Right? Because I took that power back, as you said, right? I took the power back. I tapped into my power, right? Victims give their power away.
And so whenever you're blaming anybody outside of you for anything, somebody can slap you, somebody can mistreat you, somebody can cheat on you, they can do whatever. And as long as you're saying they, you are a victim. Regardless if you are aware of it or not, you are a victim. And that's not to take anybody else off the hook of things. It's not saying that, oh, people can just do whatever to you, and no, that's when you learn to hold boundaries within yourself. But if you are blaming anybody, so it's easier to say they did this to me than to say I lack boundaries.
Yeah, or to say I was weak. I was green. It was easy to tell me everything people told me. I believed it. Yeah.
You know, it's easier to say you're the bad guy. Oh, you didn't do right by me. Oh, I knew that all men was trifling. I knew all men was bad. And it's so crazy that, because earlier I heard a man, something on TikTok or whatever, and the guy was like that sometimes you can hate yourself so much you don't even realize that you have all these conflicting thoughts within yourself. And so you can have a good man and you have all of these conflicting thoughts within yourself, and so you just do little stuff and you just pick at him to sabotage you, and so you were just like always accusing him of cheating, always mad, always like finding something to be mad about, always in that negative energy, into the space that y'all end up breaking up, and you be like, oh, I knew you wasn't any good. Well, meanwhile, that really wasn't the case.
Right.
What happened was your insecurities created this whole scenario to make y'all break a loose, because that you didn't feel like you was worthy and good enough to be with that man anyway. And so you said, you are too good for me anyway. What you want to do with something like me? I know you cheating on me. I know you ain't no good. I know you're trifling. I know this. And so you would say, then you say, oh, see, I be knowing. No, what you're doing is you're manifesting. Right. You're thinking, oh, I be seeing. No, what you're doing is you're manifesting. Right. Because you can shift that at any moment.
That's a good point, because this is the thing, you know, fear is the most debilitating emotion. It just breaks you down, because most people are afraid of success.
More afraid of success than they are failure.
Exactly.
They think it's failure.
Right. They think it's failure, but it's really the success they're afraid of, because they're like, how will I look when I'm successful? How will everybody look at me? Right? And they're attached mentally to all these nothing people or worthless people that are going to talk about you no matter what.
They're going to bring up my past. They're going to bring this. Right. They're going to do this. Who cares?
You're creating these excuses to not be successful. So they're afraid of the success. You see what I'm saying? They'll say, well, I'm afraid that I will fail. But it's really the success they're afraid of. You see? And they conform. Right? So as Earl Nightingale says, the opposite of success is not failure, it's conformity. Conformity is when you just conform to what everybody else does. Like, you know what? I don't have to do that. Right? You made these excuses. You see? Because you don't want to man up, toughen up, admit you made mistakes, and become powerful.
You don't want to have responsibility.
Right. Yeah. The most powerful thing you can do is be responsible. That's when you really control your life. When you accept that you own the responsibility, right? Because at that point, you start making decisions consciously, right? You are really conscious at that point, right? When you realize, wait a minute, when I control my destiny, I'm responsible for my life. So once you really grasp that, then you start to think before you go on a date with he or she, whoever that is.
Because there's power in awareness.
Right, exactly, right. That's consciousness. So we throw the word around, it's like, you know, I'm conscious. But what does conscious mean?
Just to be aware of something.
To be aware of something. So some people are conscious of a certain thing,
but they're not conscious,
but they're unconscious of another thing, right? So if you really realize your life is to become more and more aware, the more aware you constantly become, the better your life is. You start to live a conscious life, right? And everything will be better, right? Your finances will be better. Your marital life will be better because you're conscious and aware of how you affect and relate with everybody in your life.
And when you become conscious is not just saying, I'm going to be conscious and aware of what he doing. I'm going to be conscious and aware of what she doing, with how they moving, how this person looking at me. The most important thing to become conscious of is to become conscious of yourself. You need to become conscious of your thoughts. You need to become conscious of your energy, of how you are feeling and how you are acting and how you are treating people. And that'd be the biggest thing when people come into consciousness. They always want to go point the finger and say, oh, I read this in a book, but you're not a God, you're not powerful because you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do that. But they never looked in the mirror and said, but do I do it?
Right.
You know,
exactly.
And so when we're saying become conscious and become aware and call things out, we're saying do it within yourself because you need to master yourself before you try to go master anybody else. It's like when I have if I feel like it's a problem within our communication, if I feel like it's a problem within our marriage, I'm not praying to God or nobody to fix this man. I'm not praying to fix him. I'm praying to fix me. Oh, it's not because, he don't make mistakes and he's so perfect or anything like that. No, help me have the discernment. Help me have the ability to be able to communicate my words in a loving, healthy way. Help me to be able to set boundaries in a way that doesn't deplete him or doesn't make him belittle him. Help me figure out ways to how did I create this, and so how do I recreate it? And so it's not about fixing him. And once I stop trying to pray for God, the universe, the ancestors to fix him, and I start praying that it fixed me, and everything shifts because I'm no longer in a victim mode. And so don't go take this information and go try to tell your man, your woman, your cousin that they need to go change something. No, this podcast, this is to tell you need to go change you. And because once you go change you, everything else is going to change to be able to match your new vibration, your new energy set point. So this is not for victims.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, we ain't this ain't for no victim. Like, you know, and I like people to understand that, you know, when we talk about even history, right, when we talk, but we're speaking in a totality, right? So you're not going to hear me say, oh, we, you know, this because we were slaves and this was done. We have to study the past so we won't repeat the mistakes of the past.
And we will point it out. We will make facts about it. We will teach. Right.
But we can't dwell there. Right? Because if you dwell there, you're dwelling in a victim state. And our life is about moving forward. Right? It's all about the future. Right? And for us as a people, I like to say jump time, you have to embody where you're at right now. You have to know where you are at right here and right now. Become conscious of that. The reality of where we're at today. So when we're talking about financial literacy, we're talking about how money affects every aspect of your life. Every aspect of your life. Be conscious of that. Become aware of that. Once you are consciously aware of that, then you're going to think and make better decisions. You're going to make investments. You're not just going to throw your money down the drain, right? You're not going to spend it just gambling money, right? Something so valuable. Now, this is for people that are poor or always financially challenged, right? Because they don't control their time. You just work for somebody. And a lot of them are working for poor wages, right? And they're gambling, right? How unconscious of money are people, knowing that they need money for every aspect of their life, but they'll go gamble it. You see, that's a mindset, right? That means something is wrong with the mind, right? And poverty is a disease. It's a mental disease, right? And what will change the poverty mindset is understanding the power of I am.
I was just going to say that. That's crazy.
Yeah, the power of I am. Whatever you state after I am, you become. Right? Whatever you state after I am.
People, they're in that situation because the things that they're adding to I am is I am poor.
I am poor. Right.
If money don't grow on trees, I am this. Oh, you just don't understand. You know, like, so they have.
I'm not able. Everybody ain't able. These are terms.
Ain't able get on my nerves.
Right. These are terms that people use that they don't really realize because it's subconsciously embedded in them, and they're repelling abundance. They're repelling wealth. They're repelling money with saying those things.
There's bodybuilders with no legs.
Right. That's right.
Everybody
exactly. Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, we all have the same set of 24 hours, as they say. Well, how do you utilize it? That's the reality.
That's what makes it different.
That's the difference. How do you utilize what you have? Right? There's wealth everywhere. See, if you study the universal laws, right, you understand everything is energy, right? Everything can be alchemized. It can be changed, right? You can transmutate. You can change molecules, right? So money is not just made from other money. It's made energy. With the mind. You know, how do I shift this energy? How do I take this energy and turn it into money, right? How do I shift and everything? How do you utilize what you have access to? You're here on the planet Earth. You got access to everything, right? You know, but we have not because we ask not. Most people don't ask for nothing. They don't even know what they want. They don't want nothing, so they get more of nothing. So they say, I am poor.
I am.
And they are poor, right? They say, I am broke. So they are broke.
Because whatever you add into I am, you are adding into you. And so whatever you say I am to, you become it. You become one with it. It is
I am is your conscious awareness. I am is your conscious awareness. That means that is what you are consciously aware that you are, right? So if somebody's in the United States of America and they say I'm American, you're saying that is your level of consciousness that I live in the United States. I am an American citizen. I'm everything that because if I say I'm American, every law, the Constitution, I'm accepting that. Because I'm saying I am. And I'm stating that. The I am is God. The I am is the law. Right? So if you say I am something, you are empowering whatever comes after it. So if you say I am poor, you are declaring that. You are cursing yourself to poverty.
That's a true blasphemy.
Right.
Whenever you whenever you use anything against what the I am, like whenever you say anything negative about I am, you're saying it about God because you are your only representation of God. You are your first representation of God. And so when you being your first representation of God, how you treat you is how you're treating God. How you're speaking about you is how you're speaking about God because that energy just is.
So even when you hear in the Bible says, let the weak say, I am strong.
Yes. And they don't say keep it real.
Right. No.
They don't say
let the weak say, I am strong. You see what I'm saying? When people that were perceived weak, when they get up and say, forget that, I'm not a slave, they'll die before they let a man call them a slave. We didn't become free in this country, right, until it took death. It took people to say, I don't care, I'm free, I'm not a slave. You can kill me, guess what? I'm coming back because I gave birth. I'm coming back. And enough of us, but then people started to believe it. You see what I'm saying? So the tongue is powerful.
It's so powerful.
The tongue is so powerful, right? And so we have to be conscious of the words that we use. We live in an abundant universe. What's the law of abundance? There's enough energy or money for all who desire it and know the skills of how to acquire it. There's enough for everybody.
You don't have to hate on nobody. You don't have to sabotage anybody. You don't have to try to, backdoor anybody. It's because it's enough within the universe for every single being on this earth to have exactly what they want, and it still be more.
Thank you. We have things, humans right now that are homeless, right? You know how vast the earth is? You see all the trees? You know how much land there is? You know how creative we as humans can be to create housing for people that there should be no homeless, right? But sometimes when I tell people, I say, you know, some people choose to be homeless, right? And they say, what you mean? Da, da, da. Well, some people consciously accept that I don't have it. Some people just got more than me.
That's what they added to that I am.
Right, they I am. They said that, right? But when you read that in the scripture, right, in the Bible that people got it, they don't even read it, right? And it says, let the weak say I am strong, right? It says take your plows and beat them into weapons. Take your plow and change it into a weapon. What is that telling you? These words were to empower people, right? People that acknowledge the power of I am and used it for their betterment, free themselves. If you study history, Toussaint Louverture, the liberator of Haiti, said anything could be used to liberate. You ever seen a woman or heard the story of somebody breaking into a woman's house? There's a story, and the dude broke into her house, and she got the dude off. She stabbed him in the neck with a pencil. She ain't play a victim. Oh, I'm gonna lay here and just die. She grabbed him for anything. I got to get you up off of me, right? She ain't accept defeat. She didn't put that out in the universe. So many of us are accepting defeat in life. We're accepting poverty. We're accepting, oh, these people have the power, right? We're talking about waking people up. We're talking about transforming your life. Forget poverty. Poverty is dead, right? I mean, $1 million ain't what it was 10, 20 years ago. Go for $10 million.
And forget a they that's enslaving you. Forget
Right.
a they
Right.
that's trying to hinder you or harm you or whatever.
Thank you.
A they that's trying to keep you in that situation. Like, stop giving them the power.
The power. Listen, all that's over with. Right. This is the day, we live in a day and time that our ancestors prayed for. Right. When people see this, it'll be the week of Juneteenth. They say all the slaves got free. Right. It was never really slaves. There was people that was kidnapped and put in bondage. That's the fact.
That you said that, I had to say something that I learned through you. So the slavery. So once we became free, so because we're in this victimhood of thinking that somebody come and save us, and somebody gonna free us, and that's why they love the idea of Lincoln signing that, as if he's the one
and
that
somebody
gave us our
freed
freedom.
you.
So it wasn't until you was breaking something down to me one time years ago, and I just was like, we freed our dang selves.
We freed ourselves.
We really freed ourselves. Like, it was to a space that they couldn't handle. It was
Right.
was too chaotic because so many of us was revolting, but there wasn't social media, there wasn't the TVs, and all of that to just show to the capacity of how we was doing it. It's like we was already to a space of like, I don't want to cuss.
Well, sometimes we got
fuck it. We're just like, fuck it. Like, I'm tired of this. Enough is enough. The same with how we said, we got to, enough is enough.
Right.
But it wasn't until they said, enough is enough, that they just went out and they just was like, I'm done with this. And then that's when they so-called freed the slaves.
No, they didn't free anyone. We freed ourselves. It was our will that freed us, right? What men that was running governments realized was we got to get ahead of this, right? Because this is happening. Why? Now think about this. What happened to us, our ancestors, to the point where we became free from the physical, right? We realized that they could not shackle the mind, right? And so what happened was freedom, it didn't happen in over one day. Because it wasn't one day it's like some people came on a boat and just rounded and kidnapped people one day. Time. No, this was done over hundreds of years. So it was a process, right? In that process, we were fighting for our freedom. We never stopped fighting for our freedom. That's a myth, an illusion. Like we were just all slaves. We're slaves, and then one day you get free. No, It was all a process. We were always fighting. There was always ones telling the stories of our ancestors, passing it down, passing it down. What happened was, what freed us was we remember who we were. Mm-hmm. We remember who we were.
And how did we get enslaved?
We got enslaved because we forgot who we were. Mm-hmm. Right? We was in what's called a heaven state. All the wealth, whether you're talking about oil, diamonds, food, fresh air, everything is in Africa.
Meanwhile, they try to make it seem like Africa is like just uncivilized savages, which is bull crap.
Right. And so when people came there, they seen us in that state, right? And we could go all and on how it happened and how we was constantly invaded, and that took hundreds and thousands of years, mm-hmm. right, for that to happen. It wasn't like this happened in one day. And Africa was invaded by Arabs, Europeans. It was invaded massive multiple times.
Still being invaded.
Right. It's still being invaded to this day. But long story short, we lost our power because we forgot who we were. Mm-hmm. What do I mean by that?
You forgot that you were God.
Right. What is God? Is God a man? No. God is greater than man. But when you start identifying so much with the physical, right, mm-hmm. you forget your real power is from the spiritual mm-hmm. side. And once you start identifying so much with this physical, you start to think that that's it. And then you fear death. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until we said, I'm willing to die. If you want to kill us, we're going to keep coming, that we became free.
And there's no way for you to know who you are, to fully remember who you are, and to be afraid of death.
That's right.
Like
right.
They want the biggest goal for you to get to heaven, but then they also want you to be afraid to die. To die. Mm-hmm. What other route do you got for the fairy tale story to get to Sky Daddy?
Right.
It's to die.
It's death, right? So I just had to point that out because people like to say, well, this is the day we celebrate and you got free. Now, I mean, for those that want to just celebrate it, I'm not the one to knock people, because I look at everything as a way to teach, right, and a way to educate, right, and it is good information, right, but it's not the all end all be all, right, mm-hmm. because there's so much. We was constantly liberating ourselves, right, and we still the sad thing is so many of us today are still mentally slaves. Right, and that's why we're here, to help mentally liberate us. It's no way that we should be living in this day and time like we're still slaves, right? We shouldn't be letting people control our education. I'm not the one. We're not the ones to be fighting, worried about, they doing this in schools and that, right? Because we look at it as an option. Entrepreneurs solve problems. So if they're not properly educating your children, educate them yourself, right? If you can't start a school, homeschool. If you can't get homeschool, find somebody to homeschool them. Get with a friend, a family member, and start teaching your kids together. If you can't do that, make sure if they're still going to the public school that you're teaching them properly at home. Because the first teacher is what's called a ummi in Arabic, and that's the mother, right? The first teacher is the mother. And what you're teaching your kids, more than anything, is what they see you doing. If they see you talking like a fool, acting like a fool, that's what you're teaching them, right? They see you being an alcoholic, a drug addict, that's what you're teaching them. And that information sticks with them more than the indoctrination that they're getting in the school system, right? So become the teachers of your children, right? Don't look at them and say, they doing this. Stop empowering them. This is the time of freedom. You see, we have the internet, we got social media, we can educate our own, we got business schools. Like we're linking up all over the world right now. This is a great time. Like this is one of the greatest times in history to be alive. So the power is internal. You have the power. Access the power, right? Access the power. Subscribe to Masternomics if you have not. Join the community. Join the community. Have access to the courses. Have access to the community classes that everybody else doesn't get. Have access to be a part of the physical community that we're building on Phoenix Land Development, where we're developing acres of land, right, for homes. We already have our farm where we grow food. We're networking with other farmers, right? Building grocery stores, our education system, right, which is K through 12 schooling for the children, and a higher education of entrepreneurship and spirituality through Masternomics and Seed of Life Ministries. So we're building community, bringing people together, become a part of the movement. So check us out. We have the Taste of Afrika, and that is a company that we're operating through Ghana. And through Ghana, we're also building ancestral homes, and those are communities for people. Whether you live in America and you just want to be able to have another home in Ghana, we got the tours that go down in Ghana where we go to what they call the slave castles, but they're actually dungeons, and you get a better understanding of how the ones of us that was put on ships and brought here, how the indoctrination process started. Of course, we know we also were here prior to that enslavement, because we, as true Africans, came to what's called America years before Columbus. You can read the book They Came Before Columbus by Ivan Van Sertima, how we circumnavigated this whole planet and we set up civilizations. But we have the tours that are in Ghana to reconnect people with their ancestry and just to educate you and show you that there's so much investment opportunities that are on the African continent. So we have an investment group over there. We got a lot that we're doing as the Masternomics community. I myself am a chief in northern Ghana in the Tolan traditional area, Chief Sona. I was skinned as a chief for the efforts and our continued efforts, my wife and myself, to develop and teach around the world, right? So that's what we're about. That's what Masternomics is about. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm about. This is my wife. My wife is called the Queen Mother. Queen Mother means she makes kings, right? She helped make me become a king because she helped me look at myself in another light. So we're here to just share this information and share this energy with you all. So drop some support. You see the Cash App. Mm-hmm. We're building. We're not just talking, we're building. You see everything we're doing. Mm-hmm. It's all about the internal power.
And for the last 8 years or so, no matter what vehicle, like we called it so many different things, but no matter what the different opportunities that we was trying to take place of to be able to build this, it's always been the exact same mission. It's always been the exact same goal. And our mission and our goal, the things that brought us together, of course the spirituality, but it was the oneness of being able to help our people. I've always been passionate about helping our people. Mm-hmm. He's always been passionate about helping our people. And so even for him to be skinned into becoming a chief, it was crazy because his name means helping others, and he lived this, he breathed this, he be this. I don't know anyone that I feel like is more dedicated to being a servant than my king. And I'm not saying this just to say this, because there have been a lot of times he's helped teach me, because he helped me to learn to give more, to be more compassionate towards people, to be more understanding. And I helped him to balance the compassion and the love and the giving to people. So it's just we came in and we just created this balancement together. And so we opened each other up, but not only is the goal to open each other up and to do this for each other, we came together so that we can have this knowledge to be able to give to others. We don't want you to look at us and glorify us and say, because he's the chief or she's Queen Mother or this or that. No, you have the same power. You have the same ability to tap into the same God power, the same God energy. The God energy is not just here. The same God energy is not just on this land. The same God energy is not just even in Africa or wherever. The God energy just is, and you have the power to tap into that at any moment. And that's what this podcast is mainly about, is to be able to help you tap back into that energy of remembering who you are. And so subscribe. Not only do you need to subscribe, you need to be getting everybody that you know that want more out of life to subscribe. You need to be sharing this with a friend. Tell a friend to tell a friend, baby. Mm-hmm. And not only do you need to tell a friend to tell a friend, you also need to be joining us in Africa. What, this November?
This year is November.
And what's the dates?
November 13th to 16th. It's the Cultural Oneness Festival. So you can go to culturaloneness.com. Mm-hmm. And it's a festival that we have every year for the past, well, this is the second year, and we're in Ghana. Mm-hmm. And the festival is to unite people of African descent from all around the world with music, arts, and culture, mm-hmm. to create sustainable sources of income. So to create businesses. So we come together and we party and we kick it, but there's got to be an economic intent. So mm-hmm. we teach economic empowerment. So the Cultural Oneness Festival, go to culturaloneness.com, and it's created by the Taste of Afrika, which I am the chairman and co-founder of the Taste of Afrika.
And so not only is this festival going to be just have all this amazing music, it's also going to be a tour to educate you on how we even got into this state in the first place. It's mm-hmm. going to help you go back to the roots of remembering who you are, mm-hmm. and remembering how all of this even started. Not only is it going to be educating you, it's going to be empowering you, because like he said, it's going to be showing you the different investments, the different opportunities, the different, because there's also a business
we have a business forum. So
a business forum.
Yeah, at the festival. So the mm-hmm. festival consists of a concert, a fashion show, mm-hmm. a business forum, and what's called a debar, which is a gathering of all the chiefs, and all of the community comes out, and you see all the cultural dances, it's very, very beautiful. You can go, like I said, go to the website and you can see how last year's was. It's beautiful. People come from all over the world. And this year we're actually, which you'll find out, but we're actually in Europe also. Mm-hmm. But you can come to Ghana in November and experience it. Yeah. Experience it. Yeah.
Come journey with us.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, go ahead, like, subscribe, leave a little cash app if you like what you're hearing. Yeah. And let's build. We won. Yeah, we won. Power is inside. Look back to your roots. Your roots is God, and God is inside you. Access to God in you, and create the life that you want. Call that power back.
Peace.